If you want to succeed at the highest level, you need to learn like the top 1%. It's not about talent, luck, or being born with some special ability. The difference between the top 1% and everyone else is in how they learn, how they grow, and how they use their time and energy. This isn't some secret formula only a few people know. It's practical, it's simple, and it's available to anyone willing to put in the work. What sets the top 1% apart isn't just what they know, it's how they approach learning. They make decisions based on results. They're always looking for ways to improve, to get better, to move forward. This chapter will show you exactly how they do it and how you can start applying those same habits to your own life. From the way they handle challenges to how they structure their day, the top 1% have created systems that work for them. You can use the same strategies to transform your learning process, increase your productivity, and start achieving real success. This isn't about waiting for the right opportunity or for things to magically fall into place. It's about creating a mindset and approach that empowers you to learn from every experience and turn that knowledge into something powerful. If you're ready to stop wasting time, stop making excuses, and start making real progress, then keep reading. The steps you need to take to learn like the top 1% are right here. Let's dive in, because the way you learn can completely change the way you live. Chapter 1. Commit to daily small actions that drive big change. If you truly want to learn like the top 1%, you have to understand that the difference is not made in huge dramatic moves. It's made in the small things, the daily things, the decisions that look ordinary on the surface but become extraordinary when repeated over time. What separates those who grow consistently from those who stay stuck is not talent, luck, or some magical breakthrough. It's the discipline to do small things that matter every single day, even when they're boring, even when no one is watching, even when they don't feel like they're making a difference yet. This is where most people get it wrong. They believe that big change requires big effort. They wait for motivation, they wait for clarity, they wait for the perfect plan. But waiting never changes anything. What changes your life is showing up daily with the intention to get better by one small step. That is what makes the top 1% exceptional. They don't waste their time chasing perfection. They focus on execution. They move. They do. They adjust. They improve. They repeat. Imagine this. A person decides to read 10 pages a day. Just 10. That's barely 10 minutes of effort. But in a year they'll have read over 3,000 pages. That's around 15 to 20 books. Now think about the person who waits to read until they feel motivated. The person who says they want to learn more but never creates a habit around it. After a year they're in the same place, same knowledge, same problems, same mindset. While the other person, the one committed to small daily actions, has transformed not only what they know but how they think and who they've become. That's the power of doing small things with consistency. It's easy to underestimate the impact of small steps, because they feel so insignificant in the moment. You exercise for 10 minutes and you don't see a change. You write a journal entry and you don't feel any wiser. You make a healthy food choice and nothing shifts right away. And that's exactly where most people quit. They judge their effort by immediate results. But growth doesn't work like that. Growth is quiet, it's slow, it's not always visible in the short term, but it compounds over time. And once it does, it becomes unstoppable. The top 1% think in terms of systems, not streaks. They focus on what they can do today, knowing that what matters most is showing up again tomorrow. They don't aim to be perfect. They aim to stay in motion, and when they miss a day, they don't punish themselves. They reset and continue. This ability to stay grounded in the process is what builds unstoppable momentum. Think about your own life. What is one thing you could commit to every day that over time would change everything? It doesn't have to be big, it just has to matter. One habit, one decision, one area where you take responsibility and stay consistent. That's all it takes to begin a powerful transformation. You could commit to reading for 10 minutes a day. You could choose to reflect every night and review your choices. You could commit to walking outside every morning and clearing your head. You could dedicate 15 minutes a day to learning a new skill. You could commit to drinking more water, sleeping earlier, or reducing distractions for a small block of focused work. The specifics don't matter as much as your commitment to start small and stay consistent. But here's what will happen. As soon as you begin, your mind will resist. It will tell you this is too little to make a difference. It will want fast results and clear proof that what you're doing is working. This is where you must step into self-leadership. You have to remind yourself that small steps are not about today's outcome. They're about who you are becoming through the act of showing up. The discipline you build from doing one thing well every day carries over into every other part of your life. Daily actions create identity. When you show up for your goals daily, even in the smallest ways, you begin to see yourself differently. You move from someone who talks about change to someone who lives it. That shift is powerful. You stop chasing the future and start mastering the moment. And in doing so, you become the type of person who follows through, who finishes what they start, who keeps promises to themselves. Now let's be honest. This is not glamorous. This is not the kind of advice that goes viral. It's not exciting to commit to tiny actions. It's not thrilling to do something that doesn't give instant gratification. But it works. It works because it builds inner strength. It works because it creates momentum. It works because it removes the excuses that come with trying to do too much too soon. The truth is, you don't need to make huge sacrifices to improve your life. You need to make small decisions and honor them daily. You need to become the kind of person who values progress over perfection. Someone who believes that showing up today matters, even if it doesn't look impressive. That's the mindset that creates lasting growth. If you commit to one small thing each day, you're not only building a new habit, you're also training your mind to focus, to stay disciplined, and to value the process over the outcome. You're learning to be patient. You're learning to trust yourself. You're learning to rise above the noise and distractions that keep most people stuck. This is how you grow. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One day at a time. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to plan everything in detail. You just need to decide what matters most to you and begin doing it today, no matter how small. Maybe your goal is to become healthier. Instead of trying to overhaul your entire diet, just start with drinking more water or eating one clean meal a day. Maybe your goal is to build a business. Instead of trying to create an entire system overnight, start by writing down one idea per day or reaching out to one person. Maybe you want to improve your focus. Start by turning off notifications for 30 minutes. Do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. These little wins stack up. They build confidence. They prove to you that change is possible. There will be days you feel like skipping. Days you feel tired or unmotivated. That's normal. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for energy. Build discipline by acting anyway. Do it even when you don't feel like it. That is the highest form of self-respect. Showing up when it's hard proves to you that your goals matter more than your mood. And remember this, you don't need to change everything at once. You only need to begin. Starting small doesn't mean staying small. Starting small gives you the foundation to build something great. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a student. The difference was that they kept going. The most powerful part of this entire process is that no one can take it away from you. Once you build the habit of daily action, you become unstoppable. You no longer rely on luck or emotion to drive your growth. You become self-directed. You build the life you want, brick by brick, through your own consistent effort. This is not theory. This is practice. It's something you live, not just think about. You wake up each day and ask yourself, what one thing can I do today to move forward? Then you do it. And you do it again tomorrow. That's how you rise. That's how you win. Not by doing everything, but by doing one thing well. So start today. Pick one small action that matters to you. Set a time for it. Keep it simple. Don't aim for perfection. Just do it. And then do it again tomorrow. Track your progress if it helps. Celebrate your effort, not just your outcomes. Stay patient. Stay focused. Stay in motion. And when things get hard, remind yourself why you started. Think about who you're becoming through this process. Remember that small actions, when done consistently, create massive results. Not overnight, but over time. That's how the top 1% learn. That's how they grow. Not by magic, but by mastering the small things. By respecting the process. By committing to the work. You don't need anyone's permission to get better. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to start. One action. Every day. That's how real change happens. That's how you take control of your life. That's how you learn like the top 1%. Chapter 2. Develop a growth mindset and embrace challenges without fear. The way you see yourself determines how far you go. If you believe that your intelligence, talent, or ability is fixed, you will only go as far as your comfort zone allows. You will stick to what you already know, avoid risks, and protect your ego from failure. But if you truly want to grow, you have to let go of the idea that who you are today is who you have to be tomorrow. That shift in thinking is what separates people who stay stuck from those who rise. A growth mindset is not a motivational slogan, it's a way of living that challenges your assumptions, strengthens your resilience, and opens your life to change. The growth mindset is simple to understand, but difficult to live. It means believing that your abilities can be developed through effort, discipline, and learning. It means knowing that failure is not the end, but a signal to adapt and improve. It means embracing feedback, staying humble, and understanding that discomfort is a sign of progress. This mindset is not reserved for the elite or the naturally gifted. It is built one challenge at a time, one mistake at a time, one act of courage at a time. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they never allow themselves to stretch. They fear being judged. They fear looking foolish. They fear losing. So they settle for safety. But there is no growth in safety. You don't improve by staying in the same place. You grow when you enter spaces where you are not yet skilled, not yet confident, not yet sure of yourself, and you stay there long enough to adapt. People who rise in life have one thing in common: they are willing to try, fail, and try again. They don't tie their self-worth to being right or being perfect. They tie it to progress. They value learning over ego. They know that every skill can be improved, every weakness can be strengthened, every problem can be solved through patience and effort. That belief gives them freedom. They are not trapped by fear. They are not limited by past experiences. They are focused on what they can do today to become better tomorrow. Fear of challenge comes from one core idea: that struggle means something is wrong. But struggle is not a problem. Struggle is the process. Struggle means you are growing. The discomfort you feel when facing something new is the exact signal that you're doing something important. If everything is easy, you're probably not moving forward. If everything is smooth, you might be repeating yesterday's behavior. Challenges are not the enemy. They are the path. When you adopt a growth mindset, you stop asking yourself, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "How can I learn to do this?" That question changes everything. It removes the pressure to be perfect and replaces it with the curiosity to grow. You stop running from hard tasks and start leaning into them. You see difficulty as a sign that you're expanding. You understand that every challenge you face is shaping you into a stronger version of yourself. You don't have to be fearless to face challenges. You just have to stop letting fear make your decisions. Fear doesn't disappear on its own. It gets weaker when you act in spite of it. It gets smaller every time you take a step forward. You build courage by doing the thing you think you can't do. You build strength by walking toward the pressure instead of away from it. The people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid pain, but the ones who choose to endure it with purpose. When you struggle with something, your brain is actually learning. When you push past confusion, you are forming new mental pathways. When you face something hard and don't quit, you are building mental toughness. That's what growth looks like. It's not clean or comfortable. It's messy, frustrating, and full of doubts. But if you stay in the process, you come out better. You become more capable, more confident, and more prepared for the next challenge. Real growth is not about what you achieve. It's about who you become in the process. Every time you decide to stretch, you gain something. Not just knowledge, but character, discipline, focus, perspective. These are the tools that make you powerful in any area of life. And they are only developed when you leave the comfort of what's familiar. You can't wait until you feel ready. You'll never feel fully ready. Readiness is built through action. The more you challenge yourself, the more capable you feel. The more you step forward, the less intimidating the path becomes. Confidence is earned. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build through repetition, through effort, through failing, and continuing anyway. You don't need to be great to start, but you need to start to become great. Every skill you admire in someone else was once something they struggled with. Every expert was once unsure. Every master was once overwhelmed. The difference was they kept going. They didn't let their current level define their future level. They understood that growth is not about who you are today. It's about what you are willing to become through effort. When you compare yourself to others, you kill your growth. Your only competition is who you were yesterday. Focus on your own path. Focus on your own steps. Growth is not a race, it's a lifelong journey. Some people take longer to learn certain things. That doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. Progress is still progress, no matter how slow. The only failure is quitting. Everything else is just a step on the road to better. Developing a growth mindset requires self-awareness. You have to catch yourself when your thinking becomes fixed. When you say things like, "I'm just not good at this," or "I'll never be able to do that," you are closing the door on growth. Instead, you can shift your language. You can say, "I'm not good at this yet," or "I haven't figured it out yet." That one word "yet" keeps the door open. It reminds you that ability is built, not given. The language you use with yourself matters. It shapes how you see your potential. Start paying attention to how you talk to yourself in moments of failure. Replace judgment with curiosity. Instead of beating yourself up, ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of shutting down, ask, "How can I do better next time?" These questions move you forward. They pull you out of self-pity and into responsibility. No one is born with a growth mindset. It is learned. It is practiced. It is earned through repetition. Every time you face a challenge, you have a choice. You can hide, or you can grow. You can protect your ego, or you can build your strength. You can stay where it's easy, or you can push into what's necessary. The decision you make in those moments will shape your future more than any goal or plan ever could. Your mindset is the foundation of everything else. If your mindset is fixed, your progress will be limited. You'll avoid risk, hide from failure, and play it safe. But if your mindset is flexible and open to growth, you will find strength in every struggle. You will turn obstacles into opportunities. You will become the kind of person who refuses to quit. To build a growth mindset, you need to take daily action. Challenge yourself every day. Try something new. Do something that feels hard. Study your mistakes. Ask for feedback. Reflect on what you learn. Keep a journal where you write down lessons, progress, and things you want to improve. Celebrate effort, not just results. Track the days you showed up, even when it was tough. This is how you shift from fixed to growth, by living it. You also need to surround yourself with people who push you, people who challenge you to grow, people who don't let you settle. The environment you are in affects your mindset. If you are around people who avoid growth, you will do the same. But if you are around people who are constantly learning, improving, and stretching themselves, you will begin to rise to their level. Choose your influences wisely. There is no shortcut. Growth is uncomfortable, but so is staying stuck. So is living below your potential. So is being afraid of every challenge. If you are going to feel discomfort either way, choose the one that leads to strength. Choose the one that builds character. Choose the one that teaches you who you really are. A growth mindset does not mean everything will work out. It doesn't mean you won't face setbacks. It means you believe you can handle them. It means you don't quit when it's hard. It means you trust yourself enough to stay in the game. That belief is more valuable than any talent or advantage. Because once you believe in your ability to grow, nothing can stop you from becoming what you were meant to be. If you want to live a life of purpose, if you want to rise above the noise, if you want to become strong from the inside out, then you must commit to growth. Not once, not when it's easy, but every day, even when you feel stuck, even when progress is slow, even when you fail. Keep growing, keep learning, keep showing up. This is how you become part of the top 1%, not by being perfect, but by being committed. Committed to learning, committed to effort, committed to using every challenge as fuel. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be willing to keep asking better questions, to keep showing up for your own development, and to believe that who you are is not fixed. Who you are is always becoming, always evolving, always capable of more. Growth is not something you do once, it's something you live. And the more you embrace that, the more you will discover your own strength, your own voice, and your own ability to rise above anything life throws at you. Chapter 3. Prioritize consistency over perfection for long-term progress. Most people never get to where they want to be in life because they chase perfection and ignore consistency. They set high expectations, demand instant results, and when they inevitably fall short, they quit. The problem is not that they lack potential. The problem is that they don't know how to keep going when progress is slow, messy, or invisible. They are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect mood. But that moment never comes. Success is not about perfect execution. It's about relentless repetition. It's not about doing everything right. It's about doing the right thing often enough that it compounds. Consistency is what bridges the gap between intention and achievement. It's not glamorous. It doesn't always feel rewarding, but it is the single most powerful force behind long-term progress. When you stay consistent, you build momentum, and when you build momentum, everything starts to shift. Your skills improve, your confidence grows, your standards rise. You become more disciplined, more focused, more resilient. But none of that happens if you keep stopping and starting, if you only show up when it's easy, or if you demand perfection before taking action. Perfection is the enemy of growth. It makes you overthink, hesitate, and second-guess. It convinces you that if it's not flawless, it's not worth doing. But progress is never flawless. It's full of detours, slip-ups, and setbacks. The people who grow are not the ones who make no mistakes. They're the ones who keep showing up even when they make them. They don't expect to get everything right the first time. They just refuse to give up. That mindset is what allows them to keep moving, even when things aren't going smoothly. Most people burn out not because they work too hard, but because they try to be perfect. They try to maintain unrealistic expectations. They expect instant transformations from short-term effort. But growth doesn't work like that. Real transformation is slow. It's built through daily discipline. It's about choosing effort over ease, process over outcome, and movement over paralysis. It's about stacking small wins day after day, until they turn into something powerful. When you prioritize consistency, you give yourself permission to be human. You stop trying to impress others and start building yourself. You understand that missing one day doesn't matter as long as you get back to it the next. You recognize that imperfect action still moves you forward. You realize that discipline doesn't mean being perfect every time. It means not quitting when you're not. Your future will be shaped not by what you do once in a while, but by what you do repeatedly. If you train your mind to keep going even when you're tired, bored, or frustrated, you develop mental toughness. If you commit to your habits even when you don't feel motivated, you develop discipline. If you take small steps every day, even when they feel insignificant, you will look back months or years from now and realize how far you've come. Consistency doesn't just lead to progress. It builds identity. You become the kind of person who follows through. There's a reason most people stay stuck at the same level. They wait for motivation instead of building systems. They rely on inspiration instead of structure. They think progress should feel exciting all the time. But real growth is boring. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep in. It's sticking to your routine when no one is watching. It's saying no to distractions even when no one would blame you for taking a break. That kind of discipline is not easy, but it is what separates those who succeed from those who talk about it. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to keep doing the small things that matter. Read a few pages every day. Exercise even if it's just for 20 minutes. Track your habits. Reflect on your decisions. Write your goals down. Stick to your schedule. These actions are not dramatic, but they build structure. They build clarity. They build momentum, and momentum is the foundation of every breakthrough. The reason small actions matter is because of the compound effect. One workout won't change your body. One healthy meal won't transform your energy. 1 hour of study won't make you a master. But doing these things over and over will. The results don't come right away, which is why most people give up. They think their effort isn't working, but results lag behind effort. Just because you can't see the impact yet, doesn't mean the impact isn't happening. Trust the process. Keep going. Consistency is also about trust. When you show up for yourself every day, you build self-trust. You start believing in your ability to follow through. You stop relying on external rewards and start respecting your own discipline. That trust is priceless. It makes you less reactive, more grounded, and more focused. It allows you to set goals and actually pursue them with conviction. The truth is, you won't always be motivated. You won't always feel inspired. Some days you'll feel flat, overwhelmed, or discouraged. But those days are the most important ones. Anyone can take action when it's easy. What matters is what you do when it's not. That's where real progress happens. That's where your future is built. You don't rise by taking massive leaps. You rise by taking consistent steps. Perfection looks good on paper but fails in practice. Consistency looks boring on paper but wins in reality. The world rewards those who show up, not those who dream, not those who plan endlessly, but those who do the work again and again even when it's not perfect. When you fall off track, the worst thing you can do is shame yourself. The best thing you can do is return. Show up again, start again, forgive yourself for the slip and refocus. One bad day doesn't ruin your progress. What ruins progress is giving up. If you missed a day, that's okay. Get back to it the next day. If you messed up, that's part of the journey. Growth is not a straight line. It's messy. But if you stay consistent over time, the trajectory will always trend upward. Progress is a quiet force. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't make a scene, but it's always working in the background when you stay committed. The days you showed up tired, the moments you stayed focused when it was easier to quit, the time you chose action over excuses, all of it adds up. All of it matters. All of it shapes who you become. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to be reliable. Be the kind of person who shows up when they say they will. Be the kind of person who does the work even when it's invisible. Be the kind of person who values the long game more than the short rush. That kind of person is rare. That kind of person becomes unstoppable. Consistency is also a decision. It's not something that happens by accident. You have to choose it. Every morning, every evening, every moment of doubt or distraction, you have to remind yourself that what you're building is bigger than what you feel right now. You have to remember that discipline is a gift you give your future self. It's a message that says, I believe in who I can become. The world is noisy and full of quick fixes. But what stands the test of time is consistency. The person who keeps learning when others stop. The person who keeps training when others coast. The person who keeps trying when others make excuses. That person wins, not because they're perfect, but because they're persistent. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. If you want to be focused, show up and focus today. If you want to be disciplined, act with discipline today. If you want to be strong, make strong choices today. It doesn't matter how small the action is. What matters is that you keep casting those votes, day after day, until they become who you are. Over time, consistency becomes easier, not because life gets easier, but because your identity changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop waiting for the right mood. You become someone who acts regardless of how you feel. That's power. That's self-mastery. That's freedom. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need to begin. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. And keep doing it. Keep showing up. Keep choosing action. That's how progress is made. That's how you build a life that is steady, strong, and meaningful. The most successful people in the world are not the ones with the most talent. They are the ones with the most consistency. They outlast the rest. They endure. They repeat the process until it becomes second nature. And because of that, they improve every day. Not dramatically, not loudly, but steadily, relentlessly, unstoppably. That's what consistency gives you. It gives you an edge that most people don't have the patience to develop. It gives you confidence that can't be shaken. It gives you clarity in moments of confusion. It gives you results that no shortcut ever will. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay in motion. Keep showing up. Keep choosing the habits that build you. Keep rejecting the distractions that weaken you. Over time, the difference between you and everyone else will become impossible to ignore. Because while they were chasing perfection and burning out, you were building something real, one consistent day at a time. Chapter 4. Build resilience by facing discomfort and growing stronger. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the catalyst for growth. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has walked through seasons of uncertainty, pain, struggle, and frustration. It's easy to look at someone's strength and admire what they've become, but behind that strength is a history of difficulty they refuse to run from. Strength doesn't show up on its own. It is created by facing what most people avoid. It is built in the moments when quitting would be easier, but staying in the fight meant becoming someone new. Resilience is the muscle that grows every time you choose to stand up after being knocked down. It is the quiet decision to not let a bad moment define the rest of your day. It is the invisible force that keeps you grounded when everything feels overwhelming. But it only grows through repetition. You can't develop resilience by reading about it or wishing for it. You grow resilient by walking into discomfort, refusing to retreat, and learning how to stand tall through it. Comfort feels safe, but it slowly makes you weak. It convinces you that avoidance is protection, that stillness is security. But what you avoid owns you. What you fear controls you. If you never lean into the edge of what makes you uncomfortable, you will never know how capable you really are. You will always be limited by imaginary boundaries that collapse the moment you step beyond them. Discomfort is not a punishment. It is an invitation. It's how life tests whether you are ready for more. Every time you do something hard and don't break, your belief in yourself grows. It could be getting up early when your body says sleep. It could be speaking the truth when silence would be easier. It could be choosing focus when distraction is screaming your name. These moments feel small, but they are training your mind. They are toughening your spirit. They are shaping your identity. You begin to see that you can handle more than you thought, that knowledge stays with you. It becomes part of your foundation. Resilience isn't about being emotionless. It's not about pretending things don't hurt. It's about allowing yourself to feel discomfort without letting it dictate your choices. Pain is part of the process, but suffering comes from resistance. When you stop fighting discomfort and start accepting it as part of your evolution, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift is where growth lives. Discomfort introduces you to parts of yourself you didn't know existed. It reveals your limits and then pushes you beyond them. Every time you choose the harder road, you expand your capacity. You stop shrinking from difficulty. You start rising to it. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to give up and start seeing them as opportunities to grow stronger. That mindset transforms everything. Growth doesn't come in perfect conditions. It comes in adversity. When things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when you're tired and unsure, that's where real development happens. Those moments don't feel like blessings, but they are. They refine your focus. They test your character. They break down your illusions and build up your strength. You don't need an easy path. You need a path that stretches you, that challenges you, that forces you to become more. Every time you do something difficult and stick with it, you change. Not in a flashy way, but in a deep, grounded way. You start to see yourself as someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. That self-image becomes a foundation. You walk into situations with quiet confidence, not because you expect things to be easy, but because you've trained yourself to stay steady when they're not. You stop needing to control the external world because you've learned to control your internal world. You can't wait until life gets easier to be strong. You have to be strong now. In the chaos, in the mess, in the unpredictable moments where nothing goes according to plan. Those are the training grounds. That's where resilience is forged. You don't rise when everything is perfect. You rise when everything is uncertain, and you choose to move forward anyway. That forward motion, even if small, builds power. One of the biggest lies people believe is that resilience is something you either have or you don't. That some people are just naturally tougher. The truth is, resilience is built choice by choice. No one is born unbreakable, but anyone can become unshakable if they are willing to embrace discomfort over and over again. It doesn't take a grand act. It takes daily discipline. Choosing effort over ease, discipline over delay, growth over comfort. The mind is like a muscle. If you avoid using it under stress, it gets weaker. But when you train it under pressure, it adapts. It learns to handle more. Stress becomes a signal, not a stop sign. Discomfort becomes feedback, not failure. You stop interpreting difficulty as something wrong and start seeing it as part of your progress. You stop asking for an easier life and start becoming a stronger person. You don't need to eliminate discomfort to be happy. You need to build the strength to carry it. Life doesn't promise certainty, ease, or predictability, but it does offer you the chance to grow through everything you face. Pain, loss, frustration, disappointment. These aren't detours. They are part of the road. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop wasting energy resisting reality. That energy can then be used to adapt, to respond, to rebuild. Resilience is also about patience. You won't always see the impact of your effort right away. You'll question whether your persistence is working. You'll wonder if your sacrifices are worth it. But progress takes time. Most of the growth is happening beneath the surface, like roots growing deeper before a tree breaks the ground. If you stay in the fight, the reward will come, not just in outcomes but in who you become through the process. Your standards matter more than your mood. Your values matter more than your circumstances. If you live according to what feels good in the moment, you will always run from discomfort. But if you live according to what builds strength, you will learn to face pain and still move forward. That discipline gives you freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from dependency on things outside your control. You are not fragile. You are not weak. You just haven't been taught how to endure. But it's not too late. Every time you say yes to discomfort, you are teaching your nervous system that you are safe even in struggle. You are rewiring your brain to handle pressure. You are developing emotional armor, not to block feelings, but to stay steady while feeling them fully. That kind of resilience is rare, but it's available to anyone willing to do the work. Start by doing the small hard things. Wake up earlier than usual. Say no when you want to say yes to what's easy. Push one more rep in the gym. Sit with your feelings instead of distracting yourself. Speak up when your voice shakes. Move toward what you fear instead of around it. These acts are not small. They are the foundation of personal power. Every discomfort you face willingly makes you less afraid of life. You stop fearing failure because you've survived it before. You stop fearing judgment because you've already stood alone. You stop fearing pain because you've walked through it and found your strength on the other side. This is how you become mentally bulletproof. Not because life stops testing you, but because you stop being controlled by the tests. Most people stay stuck in cycles of avoidance. They avoid discomfort, which weakens them, and then blame life for not improving. But change requires challenge. Without resistance, there's no growth. Without growth, there's no progress. Without progress, there's no fulfillment. Discomfort is the cost of evolution. If you want to rise, you must be willing to suffer for what you believe in. That suffering refines you. It deepens you. It prepares you. Life isn't about avoiding storms. It's about learning how to walk through them without losing your center. It's about knowing that even if you're shaken, you're not broken. Even if you fall, you can rise. Even if you doubt yourself, you can still choose action. That mindset is what carries you through anything. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. But it is unbreakable. The people who inspire you the most didn't get there because life was easy. They got there because they refused to quit when it wasn't. They embraced the discomfort. They took responsibility for their responses. They used pain as fuel. You can do the same. You don't need to wait for ideal conditions. You don't need permission. You already have everything you need inside you. The fire, the will, the resilience, all of it is there. You just need to prove it to yourself by walking through the fire. Every day gives you a chance to build your strength. Don't waste those chances. Choose discomfort. Choose growth. Choose to become the kind of person who doesn't need life to be easy in order to thrive. Choose to be the kind of person who rises. Not because the world is kind, but because you have trained your soul to be stronger than whatever the world throws at you. That strength will not only carry you, it will elevate you, it will liberate you, it will make you unstoppable. Chapter 5. Master time management to maximize productivity every day. Time is the only resource that cannot be earned back once spent. It's not something you can save for later, borrow from others, or stack in a vault. It moves forward relentlessly, with or without your permission. The way you use it determines whether you will achieve the life you dream of, or stay stuck in patterns that drain your potential. Productivity isn't about being busy. It's about being intentional. It's about managing your time with the discipline of someone who knows that every minute has value, every hour shapes your future, and every day is an opportunity you either take or waste. Mastering time management starts with recognizing that you are the one in control. You don't have to respond to everything immediately. You don't have to let distractions lead your day. You don't have to be available to everyone at every moment. Boundaries are not rude, they are necessary. When you fail to set them, other people's priorities will replace your own. Your calendar will fill up with tasks that drain you, and your goals will quietly slip further away. The first step toward mastering time is clarity. You have to know what truly matters. Without clarity, your day will be pulled in every direction. You'll spend time on what feels urgent instead of what's important. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. To live productively, you have to slow down and ask yourself what actually moves you forward. What builds your future? What aligns with your values? What brings real results? Once you answer those questions, the rest becomes easier to filter out. Time management is about prioritization. It's about learning to say no to things that look good but don't align with your mission. The top performers in any field don't do more, they do less with greater focus. They understand that energy is finite, and where you invest it shapes the trajectory of your life. If you spend hours chasing things that don't matter, you'll never have enough left for what does. You can't keep scattering your attention and expecting meaningful results. Discipline is the heartbeat of productivity. Without it, even the best plan falls apart. The most effective people aren't always the smartest or the most talented, but they are consistent. They show up whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait for inspiration. They rely on structure. They've created routines that support their goals and eliminate wasted decision-making. Every morning, they already know what needs to be done. They don't start their day scrolling through chaos. They start with intention. You have to create systems that simplify your day. A well-structured morning routine can give you a psychological edge before the world even wakes up. A written plan for your top 3 tasks can prevent hours of aimless wandering. Scheduling deep work blocks allows you to tap into your best thinking without interruptions. Grouping similar tasks reduces cognitive load and keeps your momentum alive. Time blocking ensures that your day doesn't drift. Each of these habits compounds. They protect your focus, your energy, and your clarity. Your phone is not neutral. Your environment is not passive. Every notification, every open tab, every device around you is either helping or hurting your productivity. If you're constantly responding to messages, checking emails, or scrolling through content, your attention is being stolen in small fragments. Each interruption pulls you away from flow, and it can take over 20 minutes to fully regain your focus. You're not just losing time, you're losing depth. And in a world filled with shallow work, depth is where real value lives. Productivity also requires awareness of your energy cycles. Not all hours are created equal. Some moments of your day are golden. Your brain is sharper, your creativity is higher, your stamina is stronger. You have to learn to protect these hours and use them wisely. Schedule your most demanding tasks during these peaks. Save low-effort activities for your energy dips. Don't waste your prime hours reacting to minor things that could wait. Use them to build something that matters. Procrastination is often mislabeled as laziness. In truth, it's usually avoidance. You delay what challenges you because it's uncomfortable. But discomfort is where progress begins. When you face what you avoid, you reclaim your time. You stop living on the edge of tasks, carrying them in your mind all day, draining your mental bandwidth. Finishing something quickly not only clears your to-do list, but also frees your mind from unnecessary clutter. That clarity gives you momentum. There is no such thing as multitasking when it comes to focused work. The brain can't fully engage with 2 demanding tasks at the same time. What feels like multitasking is often just rapid task switching, which exhausts the mind and reduces quality. To be truly productive, you must do one thing at a time with full presence. Give it everything, complete it fully, and then move on. The depth you bring to your work matters more than the quantity of hours you spend working. Time management is not about cramming more into your day. It's about choosing what not to do. It's about cutting the non-essential. It's about removing tasks, relationships, and habits that waste your energy. You don't need to do everything. You need to do the right things consistently. That's how real progress is made. Small steps in the right direction, repeated daily, lead to breakthroughs. Reflection is the anchor that keeps your productivity grounded. Without checking in on what's working and what's not, you'll repeat mistakes and miss opportunities to improve. Take time weekly to review your actions. Where did you lose time? What tasks were unnecessary? What habits drained you? What systems supported you? These questions create awareness, and awareness leads to mastery. You are not too busy. You are just misaligned. There is always time for what truly matters when you stop giving your time to what doesn't. The real challenge is not a lack of hours, but a lack of priorities. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about what matters most. If your goals are clear and your actions are aligned, you won't need to chase motivation. You'll have discipline powered by clarity. You cannot manage what you don't measure. Track your time. Look at how you actually spend it. Many people are surprised to find that hours slip through their fingers on tasks that don't move them forward. Awareness is the first step to change. Once you see the gaps, you can start filling them with actions that align with your purpose. Every hour invested wisely pays dividends later. Being busy is a trap. It feels productive, but it often hides procrastination and poor planning. The most successful people create space in their schedule. They protect time for thinking, for planning, for learning. They understand that silence is not wasted time. It's where strategy is born. If your calendar is packed with no room to breathe, you've built a cage, not a life of freedom. Real productivity includes rest, reflection, and renewal. Boundaries protect your productivity. You have to guard your time from unnecessary meetings, toxic conversations, and tasks that belong to others. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every request deserves a yes. Learning to say no without guilt is a superpower. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you focused. Every yes to something outside your priorities is a no to something that matters to your future. You have to develop the mindset that your time is sacred. You don't owe your time to people who don't respect it. You don't owe your energy to tasks that don't reward it. Your time is your life in motion. How you spend it determines who you become. Mastering time is mastering yourself, and self-mastery is the root of all achievement. There will always be more things to do than time to do them. That's why your decisions matter so much. You can choose to drift, reacting to whatever the world throws at you. Or you can choose to lead your day with intention, to be selective, to be strategic, to be relentless about your focus. That choice creates a life of purpose instead of one of regret. Start simple. Plan tomorrow before you go to bed. Write your top 3 priorities for the next day. Block time for focused work. Eliminate the distractions you know are holding you back. Track how you spend your hours. Reflect at the end of the day on what worked and what didn't. This structure isn't restrictive, it's freeing. It gives you control over your day instead of letting the day control you. Every day is a canvas. You choose what gets painted on it. Will it be filled with distractions, half-finished tasks, and reactive decisions? Or will it show deliberate progress, deep work, and meaningful action? You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. Even one focused hour a day can change the trajectory of your life. It compounds. It builds discipline. It builds confidence. It builds results. Mastering time management is not just about getting more done. It's about becoming more of who you're meant to be. It's about living on purpose, building with intention, and rising above the noise. It's about taking control of your minutes so they can shape the hours, the days, the years, and eventually your legacy. When you manage your time well, you don't just get more done, you become someone capable of achieving more than you once believed possible. That is the power of discipline. That is the power of time used wisely. Chapter 6. Create habits that align with your personal goals. Everything in life flows from your habits. The way you think, how you speak, the actions you repeat, and even the way you respond to stress and opportunity. These are all shaped by what you do consistently. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. So, if your habits are weak, inconsistent, or misaligned with your vision, your life will reflect that. But if your habits are strong, clear, and directly tied to the person you want to become, your path becomes steady. Your life doesn't change because of sudden breakthroughs. It changes when small actions are repeated with clarity and commitment. To create habits that truly serve your personal goals, you must first understand what you are aiming for. A goal without clarity is a vague dream. You can't build a habit around something you don't fully believe in or understand. If your goal is to become more focused, more financially stable, more disciplined, or more physically fit, you have to get brutally specific. General goals create weak habits. Specific goals lead to habits that support progress with precision. There is no value in setting a goal that doesn't shape your behavior. If you say you want to be healthy, but your daily actions revolve around comfort and indulgence, then your goal is just a fantasy. Habits expose whether your goals are real or fake. They reveal your standards. They reveal your level of belief in yourself. When your habits are in harmony with your goals, your mind, body, and actions move as one. There is no conflict between what you say and what you do. This alignment builds momentum, and momentum builds lasting transformation. Habits are not about motivation. They are built on systems. Motivation fluctuates. Systems create structure. You don't need to feel excited to stick to your routine when your system makes it automatic. Most people fail because they chase motivation instead of building habits that are immune to mood. They wait to feel ready, energized, or confident. But readiness doesn't create results. Repetition does. If something matters to you, you do it whether you feel like it or not. That's the difference between someone who dreams and someone who builds. Start small. You don't need to change everything at once. In fact, trying to overhaul your entire life in a week almost always ends in failure. Your brain resists massive change. It craves stability. It learns through repetition. If your habits are too extreme or unrealistic, you will burn out. Real growth comes from consistency. One small habit, repeated daily, can alter your identity over time. It might seem insignificant at first, but the compounding effect of a well-aligned habit is powerful. You're not just building behavior, you're shaping who you are. Identity is everything in habit formation. If you don't believe you're the kind of person who sticks to your goals, your habits will always collapse under pressure. But when your habits reinforce your identity, and your identity is tied to your personal mission, your actions become effortless. You don't have to force discipline when it's part of who you are. You wake up and act in alignment with your future self because it feels natural. Habits that come from identity are sustainable. They don't rely on hype. They come from within. Your environment shapes your habits more than you realize. If your surroundings are filled with distractions, temptations, and reminders of the old you, it becomes harder to stay disciplined. Willpower is not enough. You have to design an environment that supports your goals. Remove the triggers that pull you into old patterns. Add visual cues that remind you of your new standards. Make good habits easy to start and bad habits hard to access. You can't expect to change your life if you're surrounded by the same inputs that created your struggles. Track your habits. What gets measured gets improved. Don't rely on vague feelings of progress. Write things down. Use a habit tracker. Build accountability into your process. Each time you complete a habit, You reinforce the message that you are someone who follows through. That proof builds confidence, and confidence fuels commitment. Without tracking, it's too easy to lie to yourself, to assume you're doing enough, to ignore the truth of your inconsistency. Awareness is power. Data doesn't lie. The reason most people abandon their habits is because they attach their actions to outcomes instead of identity. They work out to lose weight, and when the scale doesn't move fast enough, they quit. They study to get praise, and when it doesn't come, they stop. But if you work out because you're a disciplined person, you'll show up no matter what the scale says. If you study because you're a lifelong learner, praise becomes irrelevant. The results will come eventually, but only if your habits are driven by who you want to be, not what you want to have. Building habits also means being ready for setbacks. You will have bad days. You will miss workouts, skip routines, eat the wrong things, procrastinate. This is normal. The problem isn't failure. The problem is quitting after failure. Missing once is human. Missing twice is the start of a new bad habit. You must get back on track immediately. The faster you recover, the stronger your habit becomes. Resilience is not about perfection. It's about returning to your standards, no matter how far you drift. Your habits should be tied to your long-term vision, but they must also serve you in the short term. If your goals are years away, but your habits feel irrelevant now, you will lose interest. Your habits must give you small wins. They must reward you with clarity, energy, progress, or peace of mind. That immediate feedback keeps your mind engaged. It proves that your effort matters. That proof builds belief, and belief sustains action. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of preparation. That's why habits matter more than ambition. In moments of pressure, stress, or fatigue, you don't default to your goals, you default to your systems. If your system is weak, your old habits will resurface. If your system is strong, your response will be automatic. High performers in every field are not successful by accident. Their habits protect them when things get hard. They don't have to think about what to do. Their training takes over. If your goal is personal growth, your habits must include reading, reflection, and intentional thinking. If your goal is financial freedom, your habits must include budgeting, investing, and controlled spending. If your goal is physical health, your habits must include movement, sleep, and nutrition. If your goal is emotional strength, your habits must include journaling, stillness, and self-talk. There is no shortcut. Each goal demands a set of actions that align with its reality. You can't fake your way into growth. You earn it one habit at a time. Remove decision fatigue. Automate what doesn't need daily thought. Eat similar meals. Wear simple clothes. Keep your schedule structured. The fewer decisions you make, the more energy you save for what really matters. Simplicity is not boring. It's strategic. Complexity kills consistency. The more friction between you and your habit, the less likely you are to follow through. Make the process as smooth as possible. Prepare the night before. Lay out your tools. Remove excuses before they arise. You don't need more motivation. You need less resistance. Surround yourself with people whose habits elevate you. You rise or fall with your environment. If your circle lives in distraction, laziness, and excuse-making, it will infect your standards. But if you spend time with people who live intentionally, take action, and aim high, their habits will rub off on you. Habits are contagious. Energy is transferred. If you want to change, upgrade who you're exposed to. Spend time around people who make you feel uncomfortable for staying average. Every habit has a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. Understand that cycle, and you can rewrite your patterns. Replace bad triggers with positive ones. If boredom triggers snacking, replace it with a walk or journaling. If stress triggers procrastination, replace it with breathwork or planning. If you want to stick with a new habit, link it to a trigger you already have. After I wake up, I drink water. After I brush my teeth, I stretch. After I sit at my desk, I review my plan. These tiny adjustments lock in new behaviors until they become second nature. Time will pass whether you build good habits or not. The only question is who you want to become. Your life doesn't change in one day, but your direction can. One small change repeated consistently can transform your identity. It's not about willpower. It's about systems. It's about clarity. It's about consistency. And it's about building a life that matches your values instead of your feelings. People who succeed don't have fewer problems. They just have better habits. Their habits keep them grounded when life gets hard. Their habits keep them moving when motivation disappears. Their habits pull them forward when their emotions want to pull them back. That's the power of alignment. When your habits match your goals, your actions carry weight. You start to trust yourself. You stop talking about change and start living it. You stop dreaming about potential and start proving it. Change is not something you chase. It's something you build, day by day, habit by habit. And the more aligned your habits are with your personal mission, the more unstoppable you become. You're not building routines. You're building resilience, belief, clarity, and power. Every time you follow through, you strengthen the foundation of your future. That's the real reward. Not the trophy, not the praise, but the transformation. The quiet proof that you are no longer who you used to be, and you're never going back. Chapter 7. Focus on continuous learning and seek knowledge daily. Continuous learning is not a luxury. It is not a hobby for the curious or the driven. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to grow, lead, adapt, and achieve anything of meaning in life. The mind was built for development, not stagnation. It was designed to absorb, question, refine, and expand. Yet, in a world overflowing with distractions, the habit of daily learning has become rare. People consume content, but rarely seek wisdom. They entertain themselves, but rarely educate themselves. The difference between people who evolve and those who remain stuck is the commitment to learn every single day. The greatest edge you can ever create for yourself is knowledge. Not just formal education, but the kind of knowledge that builds your mind into a weapon. Knowledge about your craft. Knowledge about your own psychology. Knowledge about how to manage time, energy, and emotion. Knowledge about the principles that govern human success and failure. The more you know, the sharper your decision-making becomes. The faster you can adapt to change. The better you handle failure. The more you understand yourself and others. That kind of intelligence can't be faked. It's earned one lesson at a time. Your current understanding is not enough. No matter how much you think you know, there is always more. The minute you believe you've arrived, you stop growing. And the moment you stop growing, you begin to regress. Life is not static. It moves with or without your permission. Those who learn stay in motion. Those who don't fall behind. Intelligence is not fixed. It expands through exposure. The most valuable people in the world are not the ones who know everything, but the ones who never stop learning anything. The hunger for knowledge starts with humility. You have to be honest enough to say you don't know. You have to be wise enough to admit that your current results are the reflection of your current understanding. If your life feels stuck, it means your mind needs to evolve. Your circumstances will never exceed your thinking. You can't solve problems with the same mindset that created them. Growth requires a different level of thinking, and that thinking comes from consuming new information, questioning old beliefs, and applying new ideas until you see a shift. Learning is not a phase. It is a lifestyle. It's not something you do when it's convenient. It's something you prioritize. You read when others scroll. You study when others sleep. You listen to mentors when others seek validation. You watch lectures instead of gossip. You learn through every situation, good or bad. Life itself becomes your classroom. The people around you become your teachers. Your mistakes become your textbooks. Everything is an opportunity to learn if you are paying attention. But if you move through life with a closed mind, every lesson is wasted. Knowledge compounds, just like money in the bank. Every small insight builds on the last. One book won't change your life, but 1,000 will. One idea won't shift your identity, but 10,000 will. The brain stores everything, consciously or unconsciously. When you feed it wisdom daily, you are shaping the very lens through which you see the world. You are changing your instincts. You are upgrading your beliefs. And over time, you begin to act differently. Not because you're forcing it, but because you've rewired how you think. Success always leaves clues. Every successful person has a trail of knowledge they followed. They read more. They studied more. They asked better questions. They surrounded themselves with people who challenged their thinking. They didn't settle for shallow answers. They went deeper. They knew that real power comes from understanding, and they refused to be ignorant. The mind is the most valuable asset you own, and yet most people treat it carelessly. They feed it junk. They never upgrade it, and then they wonder why their life feels dull or lost. Daily learning requires structure. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to create routines around it. Block time for it. Make it part of your identity. You don't scroll first thing in the morning. You read. You don't waste your commute. You listen to audiobooks. You don't end your day with noise. You reflect. You write. You absorb. Over time, this becomes your rhythm. It becomes harder not to learn. Your mind becomes conditioned to seek clarity, depth, and expansion. You train your brain the same way you train your body. You feed it, stretch it, challenge it, and rest it. That's how intelligence is built. There is no excuse for ignorance anymore. The knowledge of the world is at your fingertips. You don't need permission. You don't need a degree. You don't need credentials. You need discipline and curiosity. You need a hunger to grow more than a need to be entertained. Every question you have has been answered by someone somewhere. Every challenge you face has been solved by someone stronger. The only thing that separates you from that insight is your willingness to seek it. And not just seek it once, but daily, continuously, relentlessly. The goal of learning is not to collect information, but to transform your mind. To think in better ways. To see in sharper ways. To act in more effective ways. Knowledge without action is worthless. You must apply what you learn. You must use it to navigate life more strategically. Most people don't need more advice. They need more implementation. They know what to do, but they don't do it because they haven't turned knowledge into habit. True learning changes your behavior. It sharpens your instincts. It makes you more intentional in every area of life. If you are not growing, you are falling behind. Every day you stay the same is a day someone else is evolving. And in the long run, those small gaps become unbridgeable. You can't compete with someone who learns daily while you stand still. You can't stay relevant, effective, or valuable if your thinking is outdated. Whether in business, relationships, health, or creativity, the edge always goes to those who adapt first. And adaptation comes from awareness. Awareness comes from learning. Learn from people who are ahead of you. Find those who have what you want, not just in results but in wisdom, balance, and discipline. Learn from their mistakes. Learn from their successes. Study their mindset, their habits, their decisions. Every mentor leaves a blueprint, and if you're observant, you can follow it. But never idolize them. Learn from them and then apply it in your own way. Filter everything through your own values. Knowledge is powerful, but only when personalized. You must become your own teacher. Eventually, learning isn't always about addition. Sometimes it's about subtraction. You learn what to let go of. You unlearn limiting beliefs. You stop clinging to old stories. You strip away false assumptions. The mind, like a room, sometimes needs to be emptied before it can be reorganized. Don't just ask what you should learn. Ask what you should unlearn. Growth is often about removing the mental clutter that keeps you from seeing clearly. There are no shortcuts to wisdom. There is no hack for mastery. It takes time, repetition, failure, feedback, reflection. You must engage with the material. Take notes. Ask questions. Discuss ideas. Apply concepts. Revise your approach. Learning is an active process. It's not enough to passively consume. You must wrestle with the ideas until they become yours. That's when transformation begins. Learn across disciplines. Don't just study your craft. Study history, psychology, philosophy, economics, biology, and art. Everything connects. The more you know about how the world works, the better your mind becomes at seeing patterns, solving problems, and creating solutions. Cross-training your brain makes you adaptable. It gives you an edge in conversations, in business, in relationships. It makes you interesting. It makes you useful. And it makes you wise. Protect your learning time. Guard it like your most valuable appointment. Don't let noise invade it. Don't let laziness steal it. Don't treat it as optional. If you learn daily, you sharpen your focus, raise your standards, and stay ahead. You stop drifting. You stay intentional. You rise above the masses who settle for surface-level understanding. You move through life with clarity, because you've studied the map. You don't guess. You decide with conviction. Knowledge makes you independent. When you learn, you stop needing others to think for you. You stop falling for trends, manipulation, or false promises. You become grounded. You trust your judgment. You speak with substance. You choose your own direction. Most people live reactive lives because they haven't built the mental tools to think for themselves. But when you commit to learning, you become your own compass. You move with purpose, and that purpose is what makes life worth living. Every day is a chance to learn something that can elevate your life. One quote, one conversation, one chapter, one insight. It all adds up, but only if you are present. Only if you are disciplined. Only if you treat learning not as a chore but as a privilege. Your brain is your power plant. Fuel it wisely, and it will energize every other part of your existence. Waste its potential, and you rob yourself of the very thing that could change everything. You are not limited by your past. You are limited by your refusal to learn from it. You are not defined by what you currently know. You are defined by your willingness to grow beyond it. Every day is an invitation to evolve. Every moment is a teacher. Every challenge carries a lesson. If you train your eyes to see, your ears to listen, and your mind to reflect. Nothing in life is wasted. The most dangerous mindset in the world is "I already know." That attitude blocks growth. It closes doors. It blinds you to opportunity. The wisest people are not those who have all the answers, but those who keep asking better questions. Stay curious. Stay open. Stay hungry. The path to mastery is endless, but the joy is in the journey, and the reward is not just success. It's becoming the kind of person who never stops becoming better. Chapter 8. Reflect on progress regularly to refine your path. Reflection is one of the most underused but powerful tools for personal growth and transformation. The ability to look back, to pause and examine your actions, thoughts, and progress is the only way to ensure that your efforts are not wasted. Most people charge forward in life, hoping that their energy and effort will eventually produce the outcomes they want. But without reflection, effort becomes blind. Action without awareness becomes inefficient. You may be moving fast, but if you're moving in the wrong direction, speed doesn't help, it hurts. Reflection is what realigns your movement with your vision. Progress is not always visible in the moment. It's often subtle, buried beneath routines, decisions, and small wins that are easy to overlook. That's why you must make space to track it. To recognize the changes in your mindset, your discipline, your reactions. You don't just measure progress by results. You measure it by internal growth. How you think, how you show up, how you manage pressure, how you treat people, how you respond to setbacks. All of that only becomes clear when you take the time to stop and think with clarity. A life without reflection is a life without calibration. It is easy to be busy. It is easy to work hard, to follow routines, to keep moving. But effort without reflection can lead to frustration. You can do the same things over and over, hoping for different results, not realizing that your method is flawed. Reflection forces you to examine your process. It invites you to ask questions most people avoid. What's working? What's not? Where are you wasting time? Where are you gaining momentum? What are you avoiding? Where are you growing complacent? These questions are uncomfortable but necessary. You cannot improve what you do not understand. Reflection also protects your purpose. Over time, even the most motivated people lose clarity. The pressures of daily life, the weight of expectations, and the distractions of the world can slowly pull you off course. Without regular reflection, you may wake up months or years later wondering why you feel disconnected from your goals. Purpose must be reviewed constantly. It's not enough to set it once and forget it. You must return to it, test it against your progress, and make sure your current path still aligns with your deeper vision. Otherwise, you risk chasing a life that no longer feels true. Daily reflection doesn't need to be complicated. A few minutes of honest writing or quiet thinking can reveal more than hours of mindless activity. The power is not in the format, but in the consistency and the honesty. You have to be willing to see yourself without excuses. You have to be brave enough to admit when you're drifting, when you're distracted, when you've compromised your standards. That kind of truth can be uncomfortable, but it's the only thing that brings growth. Without it, you live in illusions. Self-deception is easy when you avoid reflection. You convince yourself that you're doing your best. You justify your distractions. You rationalize your lack of progress. You make excuses and call them reasons. But when you face the mirror regularly, those illusions begin to fade. You start to see where you're slipping, where your habits don't match your goals, where your words don't match your actions. And with that awareness comes the power to change. Reflection exposes the gaps between who you are and who you say you want to be. The goal is not perfection, it's alignment. You don't reflect to beat yourself up. You reflect to realign your thoughts, your time, your actions and your energy with the future you want to build. Even small adjustments can make a massive difference over time. A 1-degree shift in direction, maintained consistently, will lead to a completely different destination. But you can only make those shifts when you're aware of where you are. Progress is not just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. Reflection helps you identify what matters. Reflection also deepens your resilience. When you look back and see how far you've come, even if progress feels slow, you develop strength. You remember the moments you wanted to quit. You remember the setbacks you overcame. You remember the fears you faced. And you begin to see yourself differently. You stop underestimating your capacity. You realize you've survived things you once thought would break you. That perspective builds confidence. It reminds you that you are not the same person you were 6 months ago. You've grown, even if the world hasn't seen it yet. One of the most powerful aspects of reflection is recognizing patterns. You begin to notice the triggers that lead to procrastination. You see the environments that kill your discipline. You observe the situations that inspire your best self, and with that awareness, you gain control. You can start designing your days more intentionally. You can begin removing what drains you and doubling down on what fuels you. You stop guessing and you start deciding. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder, it comes from thinking deeper. From slowing down enough to notice what's happening below the surface. The internal stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you operate from, the fears that hold you back, the desires that guide your ambition. Reflection is what brings all of it into focus. It doesn't just show you what you do, it shows you why you do it, and that why is what determines the quality of your decisions. People often seek external motivation when they feel lost, but the most reliable source of motivation is internal, found through reflection. When you remember why you started, when you reconnect with what matters to you, when you see your own growth, you don't need to be pushed. You move with intention. You take ownership of your journey. That kind of motivation lasts longer than any speech, quote, or video. It's rooted in awareness. You cannot refine your path if you don't know where you stand. Most people live reactively. They only make changes when they're forced to. When something breaks, when something fails, when the pain becomes unbearable. But that's a painful way to live. Reflection allows you to stay ahead of the curve, to anticipate problems, to make proactive adjustments, to grow before circumstances force you to. That's what separates those who evolve from those who repeat cycles. Reflection is also the foundation of discipline. Discipline is not just about force, it's about clarity. When you know what matters, when you understand the cost of distraction, when you've reviewed your own progress, it becomes easier to say no, easier to choose the hard path, easier to protect your priorities. You don't rely on willpower, you rely on purpose, and that purpose gets stronger every time you reflect. If you want to live a life of depth, you must reflect often. You must not fear silence. You must get comfortable being alone with your thoughts. That's where insight lives. That's where growth begins. Not in the noise of the world, but in the quiet space where you ask hard questions and answer them honestly. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. People think the biggest changes come from breakthroughs, but they usually come from consistent reflection. A breakthrough is often just a build-up of small insights, finally reaching a tipping point. You don't get those insights without space to reflect. That's why even the busiest and most successful people in the world schedule time to think, because they know that without it, everything else becomes mechanical. You can execute without reflection, but you can't improve without it. You will never outgrow the need for reflection. No matter how far you go, how much you achieve, how strong you become, you will always need to pause and think, because the path is always changing. You are always changing, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Progress is not a straight line. It is full of pivots, lessons and course corrections. Reflection is what keeps you from going in circles. It's easy to get caught up in goals, to chase numbers, achievements, validation, but none of that means anything if it doesn't align with who you are becoming. You could reach every milestone and still feel empty if you haven't taken the time to ask whether those goals are still meaningful. That's why reflection matters. It brings depth to your ambition. It brings integrity to your hustle. It ensures that your ladder is leaning against the right wall. Without reflection, you live by default. You repeat what you've done. You copy what others are doing. You respond instead of lead. You drift instead of direct. But when you reflect, you reclaim control. You make your own rules. You define your own path. You move with self-respect, because you know who you are, where you're going, and why it matters. Consistency in reflection is more important than perfection. You don't need to write essays every day. Even a few questions can spark powerful insight. What did I learn today? Where did I act with integrity? Where did I betray my values? What am I proud of? What can I do better tomorrow? These are the questions that build a strong inner foundation. Answer them daily, and you'll grow faster than any external measure can track. Over time, reflection becomes identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't run from feedback, who doesn't fear self-examination, who welcomes awareness, even when it's uncomfortable, and that identity leads to excellence. Because awareness is the first step to mastery. You cannot change what you are not willing to see. You cannot grow from what you refuse to confront. Progress is not a straight climb. It's a spiral. You revisit old lessons. You uncover new layers. You refine old goals. You make better choices. And each time you reflect, you rise a little higher. You become a little clearer. You act a little wiser. That's how growth really happens, not in leaps but in layers, not in noise but in stillness. Reflection is not a luxury. It's a discipline. It's not something you do when you have time. It's something you make time for. It's the difference between living with direction and living on autopilot, between building a meaningful life and building a busy one, between becoming your potential and staying your past. If you want clarity, growth, alignment and real success, you must reflect regularly, and you must take it seriously. The world will try to distract you. Your ego will try to protect you. But the truth is simple. Progress belongs to those who are willing to pause, look inward, and refine their path with intention. Chapter 9. Surround yourself with positive influences and supportive people. Who you choose to surround yourself with has a profound impact on your mindset, your growth, and your ability to stay committed to your personal goals. You can be strong-willed, self-motivated, and driven, but if you constantly expose yourself to negativity, small thinking, and unsupportive attitudes, your energy will eventually erode. Progress becomes twice as hard when you are always defending your goals instead of building on them. The people you associate with can either build you up or tear you down, and if you are serious about becoming your best self, you must become equally serious about protecting your environment. A supportive environment is not just about comfort or encouragement, it's about alignment. People who are aligned with your values, your ambition, and your sense of discipline will naturally reinforce the behaviors you want to build. They won't mock your habits, belittle your dreams, or distract you from your path. Instead, they'll challenge you to level up, hold you accountable when you start to slip, and celebrate your progress with genuine pride. Their presence creates momentum. Their belief in you reminds you of your own potential. Their discipline sharpens yours. This is not about needing people to succeed, but about choosing the right ones to walk with. Negative influences are often subtle. They don't always show up as toxic behavior. Sometimes it's the consistent undermining of your focus, the casual disrespect for your priorities, the jokes about your efforts, or the way they normalize excuses and avoid responsibility. Over time, these small patterns sink into your thinking. You begin to lower your standards without realizing it. You start to question your goals, not because they don't matter to you, but because you're surrounded by people who don't understand them. And when that happens, your growth slows, your confidence fades, and your purpose weakens. It takes discipline to curate your circle. It takes strength to walk away from familiar faces that no longer match your direction. Not everyone from your past deserves a place in your future. Some people were only meant to walk with you for a season. Holding on out of guilt or nostalgia will only stunt your progress. This isn't about arrogance, it's about clarity. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can respect them and still move forward without them. Growth requires space, and sometimes that space is emotional, not just physical. A powerful circle doesn't have to be large. In fact, the smaller and more intentional it is, the better. What matters is the quality of connection. Are you learning from each other? Are you being pushed beyond your comfort zones? Are you being reminded of your standards when you forget them? Are you being held to a higher level of honesty, focus, and consistency? If not, then you are not in a growth circle. You are in a comfort circle, and comfort never builds strength. Supportive people are not just cheerleaders, they are mirrors. They reflect both your progress and your blind spots. They are honest enough to confront you when your behavior contradicts your values. They are wise enough to guide you without control. They are mature enough to celebrate your wins without comparison or envy. These are the people who keep you grounded when your ego grows and uplifted when your spirit breaks. Their presence is not about noise, it's about substance. One of the strongest signs of maturity is the willingness to re-evaluate your relationships, to ask whether the people closest to you are bringing out your best or holding you back with their fear, insecurity, or apathy. It's uncomfortable to admit that people you've known for years are not helping you grow, but avoiding that truth is more dangerous. Because influence is powerful. Even if you're not copying someone's behavior, you're absorbing their mindset, their habits, their worldview, their energy. And over time that becomes your default operating system. If you want to elevate your life, start by elevating your circle. Surround yourself with people who have already done what you are trying to do. Not so they can give you shortcuts, but so you can learn through observation. The way they speak, the way they plan, the way they handle adversity, the way they stay grounded during success. Proximity to excellence breeds excellence, and you don't need to mimic them to grow. You just need to absorb their standards. Standards are contagious. When you spend time with high-performing people, average becomes uncomfortable. Building a strong support system also requires you to be one. You cannot expect others to challenge, support, and uplift you if you're not doing the same. You must be the kind of person you want around you. Honest, disciplined, growth-oriented, humble, and committed. Your energy attracts people. If you carry integrity, you'll repel gossip. If you move with clarity, you'll repel confusion. If you speak truth, you'll repel manipulation. The more grounded you become, the more your circle begins to reflect your own personal evolution. It's also important to recognize that not all support looks the same. Some people will support you by encouraging you directly. Others may challenge you because they believe you can do more. Some may simply model a life of discipline and clarity that inspires you. The key is to stay open to different forms of influence while staying firm in your values. Not every mentor has to speak to you. Some will teach you by example. And not every friend has to be intense about personal development, but they should at least respect your path and not pull you away from it. Being intentional about your environment means choosing spaces that reinforce your purpose. From the books you read to the content you consume to the conversations you engage in, every part of your mental and emotional space either strengthens your growth or dilutes it. A positive influence is not always a person. It can be a habit, a routine, a community, or a consistent source of wisdom. If it feeds your focus, it belongs. If it drains your focus, it doesn't. Isolation is not the solution to toxic influence. The solution is alignment. Find people who are walking the same path, even if their pace is different. Find people who want more from life, who are willing to pay the price for progress, who hold themselves to a standard and invite others to do the same. These people exist, but you have to look beyond convenience. They may not be in your current circle. You may have to seek new communities, explore different environments, and build new relationships with intention and patience. Don't wait for perfect people. Look for committed ones. People who are willing to grow, to learn, to admit their flaws, to strive for better. Surrounding yourself with perfect images is fake. Surrounding yourself with authentic growth is powerful, because in that environment, you're not pressured to perform, you're encouraged to evolve. It's not weakness to need support. It's wisdom. Human beings are not meant to grow in isolation. Accountability, perspective, encouragement and correction are essential parts of sustainable growth. When you surround yourself with people who value these things, you make your growth journey stronger and more consistent. You're less likely to quit when you fall. You're less likely to lie to yourself. You're more likely to course correct before you crash. You also become more emotionally resilient. When you're surrounded by people who speak life into your journey, you begin to internalize that belief. You build a stronger self-image. You start to see yourself as capable, worthy and driven, not because others tell you that, but because you see their belief in action. The way they trust you, respect you, challenge you, and walk beside you. That emotional support doesn't make you dependent. It makes you bold. Because you're not walking alone. You know someone is there to remind you of your strength when you forget it. Sometimes you have to outgrow your environment before you find your next one. That means a season of solitude, a time when you are pruning the old and planting the seeds for new connections. This time can feel lonely, but it's crucial. Because if you skip it, you rush into another environment that doesn't align. You trade one form of misalignment for another. But if you embrace the discomfort of separation, you create space for the right people to enter. Being surrounded by the right influences doesn't make life easier. It makes it clearer. You still face challenges. You still have to put in the work. You still have to stay disciplined. But you do it with a foundation of support, accountability, and encouragement. And that makes a massive difference. Growth becomes less about survival and more about intentional evolution. People who support you don't just believe in your success, they believe in your process. They don't just admire the end result, they respect the effort. They don't just appear during the highs, they stay during the lows. Those are the people worth keeping, not because they agree with everything you do, but because they walk with you in honesty, respect and alignment. Your environment is a reflection of your standards. If your circle is full of excuses, negativity, and distractions, then your results will mirror that. But if your circle is full of vision, growth, and integrity, then your results will eventually reflect that too. Because success is not just a product of effort, it's a product of influence. And when influence is strong, effort becomes focused. In the end, the people around you shape your world. They shape your thoughts, your language, your expectations, your energy. Choose them wisely. Not with fear or arrogance, but with clarity and courage. You don't need to explain your path to everyone. You don't need to convince people to support you. Just keep walking, keep growing, keep showing up with consistency and vision. The right people will recognize that energy and walk beside you. And when they do, your path will feel lighter, your mind will feel stronger, and your progress will multiply in ways that surprise you.
Chapter 10. Take full responsibility for your actions and decisions daily. Taking full responsibility for your actions and decisions is one of the most powerful things you can do in life. It places the control back in your hands. It frees you from the endless cycle of blaming others, circumstances, or the world around you. Responsibility is the bedrock of personal growth, and without it, progress becomes impossible. Life doesn't happen to you. It happens because of you. This mindset shifts you from being a passive observer of your circumstances to an active participant in shaping your own fate. It is this shift that leads to a deep sense of empowerment and clarity. Responsibility is not a burden, it is a privilege. It is the key that unlocks the door to freedom, growth, and transformation. When you take full responsibility, you are telling yourself that your future is not dependent on anyone else or anything external. You are deciding that you will no longer give power to the circumstances that have defined you in the past. You are in control. The problem, however, is that many people live their lives without taking full responsibility. They make excuses for their failures, they shift blame to others, and they continuously point fingers at the world around them. The moment you start looking outside of yourself for reasons why things aren't going the way you want them to, you give away your power. You no longer have the ability to change anything because you're not the one controlling your actions. Other people or external circumstances are. The truth is that your success and failure depend on the choices you make, not the choices others make for you. No one else can dictate your actions, and no one else can define your life unless you allow them to. When you take responsibility for your decisions, you give yourself permission to be fully accountable for your actions, without making excuses or justifying mistakes. You own everything that happens in your life. This doesn't mean that you have to take the blame for everything that goes wrong, but it does mean that you take responsibility for how you respond to challenges, how you react to situations, and how you handle the inevitable setbacks along the way. It means recognizing that you are the one who has the power to change your direction at any moment. When you take responsibility for your actions, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as the creator of your own life. You no longer accept excuses. You don't allow circumstances to define you. You take action. One of the first steps in taking responsibility is recognizing that nothing happens by accident. Every outcome is a result of a series of choices, some of which you have made, and some that were beyond your control. But the key is that you have control over how you respond to those situations. No one forces you to think a certain way or act a certain way unless you allow it. When you own your choices and the consequences that come with them, you start to see the connection between your decisions and the outcomes in your life. Whether it's success or failure, happiness or frustration, it all traces back to decisions you made along the way. When you take responsibility for your decisions, you stop blaming the world for your results, and instead you start looking inward to figure out what needs to change. There is a subtle power in recognizing that your life is the direct result of your decisions. The freedom you have is the freedom to make a new choice, to shift your direction, to pivot when necessary, and to stay on course when it's hard. Many people resist responsibility because it feels heavy or burdensome. They believe that by taking responsibility, they are accepting fault for things that went wrong. But responsibility is not about accepting blame, it's about accepting that you are the author of your story, and that means you have the power to rewrite it at any time. Taking responsibility starts with awareness. It's about recognizing when you are tempted to shift the blame. When something goes wrong, it's natural to want to find someone or something to blame. This is a common habit, especially when we face discomfort or failure. It's easier to blame external factors because it absolves us of any responsibility, and we don't have to confront the uncomfortable truth that we might have made a mistake or could have made a better decision. But the moment you stop blaming and start taking ownership, you realize that every action is yours to control. Even if the situation was not ideal, even if it was challenging, your response to that challenge is in your hands. The way you think, the way you react, and the way you choose to proceed are all choices you make. When you take responsibility, you embrace the idea that you have the power to learn from every situation, whether it was successful or not. Responsibility brings clarity because it forces you to face the reality of your actions. When things go wrong, it is easy to point fingers at others or to feel like the universe is working against you. But in those moments, it's important to pause and reflect on how your decisions have shaped the outcome. You might not be able to change the past, but you can take responsibility for how you move forward from here. This is how you grow, this is how you evolve, and this is how you learn. Growth happens when you take full responsibility for your actions and decisions and begin to see the lessons in every experience, even the painful ones. Responsibility also means being proactive. It's not just about accepting the consequences of your actions, but about actively creating the conditions for success. Many people wait for things to happen to them, waiting for opportunities to come, or for the right circumstances to fall into place. But those who take responsibility understand that success doesn't come by waiting, it comes from taking decisive action. You are the one who must create the opportunities, the right environment, and the right mindset. Waiting for things to change on their own only leads to frustration. When you take full responsibility for your life, you stop waiting for life to happen to you, and instead you start creating the life you want. Taking responsibility is also a way to practice honesty with yourself. When you truly take responsibility for your actions, you stop lying to yourself. You stop rationalizing your mistakes or finding excuses for why you didn't do what you said you would do. You own up to your shortcomings, and you commit to learning from them. There is immense power in being honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to be. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming others for your failures or not facing the fact that you could have done better. But the moment you stop making excuses and start owning your decisions, you create an unshakable foundation for your future. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up every day, taking full responsibility, and continuing to grow. The ability to take full responsibility for your actions is also a way to free yourself from guilt and regret. When you are constantly blaming yourself or others for what has gone wrong, you stay stuck in the past. You can't change what has already happened, but you can change how you move forward. Taking responsibility frees you from the chains of guilt and regret. It allows you to let go of the past and focus on the present and the future. You are not bound by your past mistakes or decisions. You are free to make better choices moving forward. Taking full responsibility doesn't mean dwelling on your past. It means learning from it, growing from it, and using it as a stepping stone to greater success. One of the most powerful aspects of taking responsibility is that it gives you the ability to control your own narrative. When you take responsibility, you become the storyteller of your life. You stop letting others define your story. You stop letting external circumstances dictate your future. You become the one who chooses the direction of your life. You choose your goals, your path, and your actions. You take full ownership of your journey. The more you take responsibility for your actions and decisions, the more you realize that you are in control. Life is not happening to you, it is happening because of you. Every choice you make is a step forward in creating the life you want. Responsibility is the key to becoming the person you've always wanted to be. Taking full responsibility for your actions and decisions daily isn't just a practice, it's a mindset. It's a shift in how you view yourself and your role in the world. It's understanding that no matter what happens, you have the power to respond. You are the one who creates your reality. The more you take responsibility, the more empowered you become. Your decisions, actions, and mindset shape your world. Taking full responsibility is not a burden, it is the freedom to create the life you want. It is the freedom to build your future on your own terms. It is the ultimate act of self-empowerment.